everybody, I'm Sarah, this is Walter, and we are Record Players. Today I am here for a very special profiles interview with the one and only Walter van Hauwe. Walter has been one of the most important figures in the recorder world since the 1960s, building this instrument in terms of music, education, students, recordings, concerts, everything you can think of. I'm here to talk to Walter today about the history of our instrument in living memory and a whole bunch of other things. One thing I think is really special about the recorder is that our instrument is so ancient, yet the recent history, the modern history of the instrument is within living memory, and we get to talk to the people who really built it up from the ground up. So this is why I'm so excited about this interview today. Let's go. So Walter, welcome.
Nice to be here. Nice to be in your program. Nice to have me. That's what you see in CNN.
There's so much that I would like to ask you about and would like to hear about the recorder. I would love to hear all of your stories.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. We could start with how did you start playing the recorder?
Then I have to go back to the 50s. I started when I was 8 years, 7 or 8 years. I didn't like it. I had a terrible teacher, and it was with a group of kids in the teacher's home, because then there were no music schools yet. But they also organized little, not competitions, but little performances of kids. So I had to do that as well, to play that. You have to go on a little stage. And then I was 9, I think, and then you have to play something, and then you can win. I don't remember, a lolly or whatever. And I won, to my surprise. So I said, okay. And then 3 months later there was another one, and I won again. So at a certain point I said, that's something what probably might work. So I started to like it and to practice. And then I got from a family, when on my birthday I got an LP from Frans Brüggen. And then I was 10, I think, and on that he played Sabatini concerto, and then I said, wow. So I don't know how, get the music, and I copied that. I studied exactly his way of playing then, in all the tempi, and listening to how he's doing it with his tonguing and everything. So at a certain point, I said I want to study with him. This is my thing. So finally I went to The Hague Conservatory, and since that moment it was a big party. It was fantastic. So he took me, and then I was 17, I think. And he brought me into contact with with a private student of him in Amsterdam, a young boy, Kees Brüggen, but they wanted to do the tremolo version of the fourth Brandenburgs. And Kees was looking for, asked Frans, do you know another recorder player? So he brought us into contact. That was in '66, and then we started quite a lot of time, because Kees and I thought we were big fans of Frans, of course, and Frans also, we were very keen also on his contemporary music. So we already heard Suite of Andries, was composed in '64. And we said, what, Frans can do everything except one thing, that's 2 recorders. So let's do 2 recorders. And in these days, nobody knew yet how to play early music.
Right.
That was not known yet. It was just starting, and everybody was trying things out, and there were hardly in particular on the wind instrument, hardly people who could play these instruments well. So it was still out of tune and not knowing how to blow and articulate and so. So the same people who were interested in how to play early music were also the same people were to play how to play contemporary music.
Okay.
So the combination of unknown musics, the contemporary and Baroque, that was a very logical thing. A combination. You could see that the string players of the Leonard consort, Gustav Leonard, with the early music, were the same people, the same string players who started the Schoenberg ensemble with Reinbert de Leeuw.
Right.
That were just the same people.
Yeah. Wow.
So this combination was very logical. We figured out that there was not so much interesting literature for the recorder. So I went to Paris and we thought we had one duet of Altair, and they said, now if you can compose that piece so nice, then he must have written more. So we went to Paris and copied a lot of. We found Rebel and Donnel and Altair, of course. So we started Quadro Altair with the trio sonatas, first French, then Italian, then English stuff, German stuff, and we did quite well. So we could make already during our study we could make an LP that got an Edison Prize.
So it did quite well.
So I finished our study in '69, and the next day Frans said, let's start 3. So that is sour cream. So we became big friends, and we traveled. Well, we played more than 20 years with this ensemble, and 8 years later, the students of ours, 4 students, started Lucky Stardust. So within 10 years, we had covered the whole literature of
Right.
And so that was nice. So that is, and now I still play, and I'm addicted to that machine still.
Yeah.
After almost 60 years now, it's incredible.
You decided you wanted to study with Frans Brüggen, and you did. Was that quite unusual at the time to study the recorder at conservatory?
Yeah. It was the end of the 50s. Kees Otten, that was which was not a professional recorder player as such. He played well, but he was actually a jazz player on a clarinet. That was his main thing. There were not yet recorder players. It were flute players, clarinet, hobo players who also played the recorder. So it was not yet a profession. But he managed to make it a main subject in the conservatories of The Hague and Amsterdam. And Frans Brüggen was a student of him when Frans was 17, 18, but very soon he surpassed him in his skills. And after Frans, finishing with Frans, I wanted to study 6 months or so with David Munro. But before that could happen, he died. So that was a pity, because that was also a fantastic player. But it was all new. You had to figure that things out. So there was not a technique or not an what kind of skills do you need? The breathing system was taken over from the flute, so but it didn't work well. So I was thinking then, when Frans stopped then teaching in '72, and he was teaching in Amsterdam and in The Hague, and Kees took his class there with 4 or 5 students, and I took Amsterdam with only 2 students. And I said, if I want to make the recorder more an interesting thing, then we need not only a quality player but also quantity. So we have to find a sort of way how we can get more good skilled players. I started to teach, and I didn't like the fact that you had to go every week on the same day with the same students, doors closed, and try to student. There were no ensemble playing yet. Nobody played ensemble because ensemble music for recorder was not known yet.
Wow.
It was just not there.
Yeah.
When I did my final exam and I had to program that, I could choose out of 40 years Baroque music and 6 years contemporary music, and I only had a soprano and an alto. I had a mixed soprano, and I could borrow from Frans the Polsma alto, and that was it.
Wow.
There was nothing else.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And were you also playing at 4:15 at this point, or was it?
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
That's later. Yeah, even when you, for example, see that what was composed in '67, I think, the Shinohara fragmenten, and it is for tenor recorder. But it's very strange in that whole piece with all kind of dodecaphonical principles, and there was nowhere a low C sharp, because there was not a tenor with a low C sharp yet. You only had a school flute.
It's a different world.
It's a very different world.
Yeah.
It's completely different. So it is actually ground zero.
Yeah.
So, which is very nice, because when you want to do something more, and you play the violin, you are in trouble, because that has a huge infrastructure you have to fit in, and piano and singing, and
yeah.
So the recorder was a niche. It was very much in the periphery, but it's better living in the periphery than in the center. Really, stay there.
That's good advice.
Because in particular for recorders, nobody cared. So you could do what you want. So I thought, I don't want to give these weekly lessons, and I don't want to solve problems for the students, but I want to check their abilities to solve their own problems. So I have to bring the problems, and then they have to try to solve it, and then we discuss that. And then I can give advices, of course, but I don't solve it.
Yeah.
This is what they have to do themselves, to be sure that they are going to play in their way and not in my way. That was indirect, what we also automatically got from Frans, because Frans was never there. Frans was always touring.
Okay.
Yeah? I studied 3.5 years with him, and I counted it wrong time. Maybe in total I got 30 lessons, I think, during my study. And that were very interesting things. When he was not satisfied, the lesson was 2 minutes, and then we stopped, and then I had to pay the coffee.
Wow.
And when I did well, then the lesson was 3, 4, 5 hours, and he sent it away all the others.
Wow.
So it was an exchanging of things. So he was always very. So I said, I have to make that a sort of format. So and so I did a proposal. I did a suggestion in the conservatory, and they said, "This is impossible." But I was very good with them. But they said, "Okay, your system, or how you want to call it, in no way fits into the normal system. So here you have the key of an old hidden church in Amsterdam, but that's nu de Rode Hoed.
Oh, yeah.
And I got the key of that, and there are many rooms, and do your thing.
Okay.
So that was amazing.
For the viewers who don't know the system, can you describe it shortly?
Now the system is actually the lessons were organized in a block of 5 days, and one day was at least 10 hours, if not 12, if not 14 hours. It started at 9 in the morning and it ended in the bar at 2 in the night.
Mm-hmm.
During that, there were lectures, ensemble playing. Every student had to give for every lesson a 5 minutes lecture sort of thing, why he or she needed a lesson. Oh. And if that was not an interesting story, no lesson.
Wow.
So then the next month. So that was 5 days long in that way with the concert on the Thursday evening and critics on the Friday morning. Mm-hmm. And then 3 weeks I was not available. Yeah? But they had to do ensembles, and if a student has a first year student had a problem with some physical sickness, go to that student, he already or she solved it, so they get used to teaching, and and all students had always to listen to all the other lessons. So every student got one lesson in these 5 days, 1 hour, 60 minutes private lesson, and that's it. Mm-hmm. But they had to listen to the others, and already within 2 years I had about 70 entrance exams.
Wow.
And we had a group of 40 students, and then I asked Kees had already stopped in The Hague, but I said, Kees, help.
I have 40 students.
I cannot cope. So Kees came in, I think in 75 or 6, and he left in 81 when he moved to Italy. Within a few years, there was an enormous production, so to say, of very skilled and enthusiastic people.
And where are these new students coming from? If the recorder was so new, and then you had 70 entrance exams.
That was part of my plan. If we get more skilled people, they need better instruments. So I made contact with recorder makers. We even invited in the second half of the 70s Fred Morgan, who was a young star for 2 years in Amsterdam, and we gave him a studio, and it was around the corner where Frans and I lived. We lived in the same house for 10 years, and Kees was one on the canal next to that. So we developed all these instruments with Fred Morgan next to us every day when we were there. It was fantastic. So, and we need compositions. We need good original people. So we ask many composers to compose for the instruments. I thought that the recording actually, in my opinion, is not really a solo instrument. You can play nice solo pieces on it, in particular in the contemporary, but in the Baroque you don't see it. Yeah? There are no solo pieces. You can play traversal pieces, but they are not made for recording. So the only way to get them is in the contemporary music. But somebody asked me to come for a solo recital, where I always played as many different styles as possible, because that was growing and growing. Mm-hmm. I said, okay, I come if I also can give a masterclass for the conservatory there, or for for a group of music schools or whatever, and I want to have next morning a breakfast or lunch with composers. So students said, okay, I want to study in Amsterdam, because we were in Amsterdam very much busy with all kind of styles and experiments and meeting recorder makers and composers. It was absolutely booming. Yeah? Yeah. And then I said, well, we have to make very interesting final exams and invite the whole conservatory, the director, and all kind of instruments to listen to that. So that they said, "Wow, what is going on here?" So not anymore. One comes on stage, plays a piece, and leaves the stage. You can know it was a sort of stage management. So the recorder became hot. So around 2002, I was already planning to stop teaching to make space for the next generation. I started when I was 20, so and that is what you also saw with the other instruments. Actually, still partly. Then you get a position in such a school. Then you teach there 40 years. In these 40 years, you get 10 generations of students, and nobody can have your place.
Yeah,
it's not fair.
Yeah.
It's just not fair. So at a certain point, you have to stop, and you can then coach people, but you have to give it on to the next. When the conservatory then asked me, "Can you reform or the whole conservatory in that successful system?"
The whole conservatory.
The whole conservatory. And then I said, "No, that's not possible, because it depends so much on the instruments. There are a lot of other things you can do. You can start with team teaching. That a student is not of a particular teacher, but that all the teachers of that department have to feel a responsibility. You have to start with kicking out old conservative teachers, because you need fresh young people.
Yeah.
You have to do this, and you have to do, and it was including jazz and pop. So you can merge things. Why should we do solfège with church modi as Mixolydian and Dorian scales only for the classical people? Because also the jazz people use it. So come on, let's merge that. So there are a lot of things. Starting choir with all the disciplines together, mix composers, mix and history, learning to do business. So that's all the same thing. Yeah. So that is what I set it up then, and then I started to. So I said, give me 2 years to come with a plan, and then I started to have lunch with all the classical main subject teachers, and to convince them to join the new direction, or otherwise you are in trouble.
Wow! How was this received?
Very, very, very good.
Okay.
Very good. So 20% decided then of the generation that were actually older than I was. Said, okay, it's a good point, but I cannot make this change, so I stop teaching. So most of them. So the average age of the piano teachers, a group, was over 70 in these days, and within 5 years, 6 years, it was 48, 49, 50. So
wow.
So that was new things. So that was what I did till my retirement in 2013, and I'm still in the background as far as because I made a plan up till 2025.
Okay.
And it's,
Wow.
it's on schedule. And that is nice to see that so many recorder players, not only in the meantime who have studied in Amsterdam, but you have already students from students somewhere else, and they are well organized. That you have to study also your infrastructure and everything, which you are a good example of that.
Yeah. I think it's what you say, if you don't have there's not this huge repertoire yet, or you don't have a clear orchestral path, something like that, you have to make it for yourself.
Yeah.
I think every recorder player is aware of that.
Yeah. An important a recorder fan was the factory of Zen-On.
Right.
They made recorders. This man asked me, can you write some for our magazine, some recorder technical things for the teachers. So that is what I did in the magazine, and that went very well. And then he said, why don't you make books out of that?
Yeah.
So it well organized. So I started to do that. That was in the beginning of the 80s. So I was all the time when Frans and Kees went to in Australia or in Hawaii, went to the casino. I asked at the desk for a typewriter and started to write my things. And then it is published in three volumes.
And that became the modern recorder player.
Yeah, and it's in the meantime in several languages translated. That's in the meantime old, but what I try to do in these volumes is to do it not on the basis of a certain taste, but just facts. And for the articulation translations, I always we discuss the native language where I can
right.
the same sort of tonguings.
Yeah, that's something drastically different.
When you have to make different tongue tip movement, all this.
Yeah.
There is a very good Dutch word. It is the Dutch word for tender is tedere.
Teder.
Tedere.
Oh yeah,
Tedere.
teder.
So then you have all the three tedere.
Yeah,
Tedere.
because the re is very difficult as an English person.
Yeah. So
we have
the native English speakers never thought about their tongue. No. They just learn to talk, to express with the tongue, and there is a sort of piece of meat in your mouth, and you move that. For example, the German T has a sort of S behind it. So you have to get rid of that S thing.
Noisy, right?
Yeah. So that's why you have to do all these exercises per language.
Right. Yeah. Because as a British person, you have the advantage of diddle. That came very naturally. Yeah. Whereas the I had to. Yeah, that took years of practice.
Tonguing is a very, very essential recorder tool, and that is most of the time and fingers are just slaves. You have to do your
do their job.
You have to make them reflexes. So you have to do a lot of quite some time. At a certain point, people blamed Amsterdam being only interested in technique, and it was actually the opposite. I wanted to get rid of the technical problem as soon as possible, so that we don't have to think about it anymore.
Right. Yeah.
And therefore, you only have 4 years, for some 6, but 4 years. So you cannot wait till build up a sort of reflex in the tonguing and in the fingers in the 3rd or the 4th year. That's too late. So that is how I started. Whatever talent you had, the students had, or taste or directions you want to go in, she always could play in ensemble because they have all the same technique. A good, solid technique, fundamental technique. And the more talented one could do more things with it. Now we have 6, 7 centuries.
Yeah.
In ensemble and with this and with dance and light and video and whatever. So that is also things you cannot do within 4 years. But a school is a school, and a school has to do schooling. So give the students the tools and that is knowledge, of course, and so that you can make up your own mind, but also the reflex skills, so that you do your skills, do your chords, do your exercises.
Yeah.
So
and then you can do everything.
So that you can. When I studied with Frans, every session started with a series of exercises, 40 minutes, 45 minutes. And so I had to do that, and Frans was just reading the newspaper or drinking his schnapps. And at a certain point, Frans started to study. Well, during my things, and then I had afterwards to say what he did wrong.
Oh wow!
So I had to do it automatically, and in the meantime, I had carefully to listen to Frans what he did.
Wow! What a focus exercise.
That is very, very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. And he also said, here's a new piece. You don't know yet, and it was quite often sort of French, a contemporary piece, Bauer, difficult, many notes, that kind of pieces. Next time when I'm there, you play it for me without any mistake, but on the next lesson it's the first time that you play it on the recorder. So till that time you only have to read it.
Wow!
And then you play it. Next time when I did that well, after a few times, you have to play it by memory. But don't touch the recorder, and you are very. Okay, meneer Brüggen, okay. And then you have to do it by memory on the voorspelavond.
Wow.
And that's so later, when I was always in planes, traveling around, I just learned whatever. And I still practice contemporary pieces, just reading it.
Wow.
I don't need a recorder for it.
Okay, what a skill to develop.
That's, and then, the 2 days before a performance, you check.
And what you're saying about play it without a mistake, how do mistakes fit into the grand scheme of things? You
need to learn. It's important to learn to make mistakes. Mistakes are not wrong. Mistakes are essential information. Also mistakes on stage. It's a pity it was not on purpose. Shit, you can say, but learn from it, and it's next time better.
Yeah.
So, because playing unsafe has nothing to do with art. You have to get used to sticking out your neck and to take risks. So if you want to really to do your special thing, whatever you want to do, it's on the limit.
Yeah.
Sometimes in timing, in storytelling. Of course, a few parameters as intonation should be okay, and it must be clear that you have practiced the piece. So if you are not prepared,
right,
then you make stupid mistakes. So that's unprofessional. But if you prepare your stuff very, very serious and as good as possible in your then the mistake is actually almost a bingo. Yeah.
And do you have a favorite piece of music?
No, same.
To play?
Same. The moment that I play it, that is the favorite. However, when I keep my playing warm, I actually, well, that is my focus for so many decades was contemporary music. I actually only play Bach.
Okay.
Because I think, after all, the recorded roots coming from that period, and it requires the most subtle skills.
Mm-hmm.
I think contemporary music is so much easier. I think if you play it well, you can convince many people with the recorder.
Yeah.
It's a sort of laser beam.
Yeah.
And the sound is so.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what you were saying about studying with one soprano and one alto, and that was it. And now it's so different. We have from Gartlein to these 5-meter tall recorders in every pitch, in every temperament, in every style. There's so much choice.
What is the next step? What is,
for example.
Yeah, the next step is party. Enjoy that. It is incredible. Your musical life is, I can tell you, is easily 50, 60 years long. So if you do every 3 years something, another focus, wow.
Party.
Yeah, party.
Yeah.
It's easy to fill a lifetime with it.
If you think back to when you started, did you expect the recorder to become this big?
Yeah.
You did?
Absolutely. I was, for sure. That's why I could make such a long-term plan.
Yeah. I thought this is going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to happen. You just have to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you everybody for watching my interview with Walter van Hauwe. Walter has obviously made so many different recordings. I can point you to his website, waltervanhauwe.org, that has an overview of everything. One tip I can give you is a recording, a DVD recording made by Walter and Kees Boeke in the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, playing on original Baroque instruments. It's one of the most amazing things I've ever heard, to see these instruments and hear them being played. So that's my top recommendation for you. As always, you can subscribe to my channel by clicking on my face down here in the corner. Over here is the Team Recorder Patreon, where you can choose to support the channel. And up here is an interview with Lucy Horsch, who has been one of Walter's students. Thank you for watching and have a great day. Bye!